Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something interesting, and I realised something recently. I have built every single type of build in my world that you could possibly think except Viking stuff, and I don't know why. Viking stuff is cool. You know, you've ever played God of War? It's amazing, it looks awesome, right? Anyways, these are the only Viking-esque things I've ever built, and those are just like boats, I guess long boats, I can't remember the name of them now. But anyway, today I want to build a Viking longhouse and see how that turns out. So without further ado, let's get to the time lapse. The first thing I'd like to mention today is what I used to create this base, or more accurately what I looked at to create this base, and that was Google Images, and Google Images of Viking longhouses, real ones, what people walking around, the interiors, the exteriors, what colours were used, what shapes were used, how they were made. And the thing that surprised me most, are they not like the wooden log cabins you see in God of War? God of War lied to me. I can't believe it. No, they're these like weird long things with moss over the top and fabric and very, very shambled together. And honestly, it doesn't look good bad. It's actually a pretty cool design. I think I'd like to live in one of those if it didn't look so empty on the inside. But anyways, I worked to make that. Look right in Minecraft, and I tried to make it, if you look at the front with all the logs, they're all very shambled together, and they've got that design on the bottom. If you search up some Viking longhouses, maybe don't, I'm not going to force you to do it. I won't be mad if you don't, I'll just be disappointed. But if you look at the real ones, they've got this like wood texture on the bottom where they're all logs all compiled together, wrote together and things like that, and I tried to do that effect with the signs and the logs at the bottom, and I think it turned out really, really cool. Also, one thing I just like to mention, and not a lot of people know this, and I've been texturing for years, a very long time, but if you look at the logs, the spruce logs, they're green, they're not brown. They've got slight hues of green in them, which make them a perfect transitioner into moss and into green terracotta, which is, you know, perfect, because those are the two big greens that you use. And with moss you have to use signs, as I've used them there, to transition it better, but still it looks really, really good. And from afar, if you blur your eyes, it just looks like it perfectly transitions into the spruce, which I loved about this base. The texturing on this base is phenomenal on my part. I mean, I'm not one to brag usually, but I mean, I guess these videos are just me bragging about my build, so maybe I am one to brag. But these spaces, this space here, I'm really proud about the texturing on it. It wasn't too heavy, it wasn't too light, it was just a perfect amount. One more thing I'd also like to mention are the logs that I've used at the top of the base. Those little oak logs sticking out that they look like they're structural supports. I mean, it's a really small detail, and often I do a lot of small details on my bases, but I really love how those ones turned out. I just don't know why. I think they look really neat and they really bring the base together, and I just think they're really awesome sticking there. So if you want to make a log cabin in the future, or a pirate thing, or a Viking thing, or whatever, use those designs, or use your own ones, or I don't really care. Just use logs in it, because the logs look amazing apparently. And also, one thing I'd also like to mention is that chimney I did to the top. I was like, I didn't really know what to do there, and then I looked at the designs, they have these small chimneys, I thought, what's if I do a big one? And the big one looked really cool, and I think big things do look cool, so that, you know, awesome. I don't really know what else to say there. It's just looked really, really neat in the end. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent now in this building process. One thing you'll see across the base are these like leaves, and they're everywhere in the base, and it's a really confusing and frustrating topic sometimes when you're adding mossery to a base, because you're trying to make it look overgrown, right? But at the same time you also come into the problem of it looking too overgrown, or you've added too much moss, or you've added too much detail or too much growth, and it's always that struggle between making it look right. Now, when you're starting off building, adding moss to a base is a perfectly fine way to make your base look great, because it instantly turns this base that doesn't have a lot of detail in it, and then suddenly you're looking at it and thinking, wow, there's all these vines across it, this person's put a lot of detail into their base, when honestly you really haven't. You put a bunch of leaves on it. It's not saying the base is bad, just saying, just putting that out there, it's a lot easier to add leaves are a really good way to detail bases. But with this base here, I think I did it quite well. By there's only, look at that, you've got around like 20 leaf blocks on the back there, but it makes it look more outwards. It adds that level of detail you just didn't have before, and it just makes the base look really mossy. And also, when you look at the back of this base, do you know what the first thing you should think is? It's a little bland. There isn't much going on here, and that is perfectly okay because nobody's going to see it, but you do need a back to your bases sometimes. And I'm not one of those people that say every single area of your base needs to have tons of detail. You know, detail the parts that people are going to see more. Now, if you like detailing the entire base, or if it's a 360 view base, go ahead, do it. I'm just not that type of person. I don't really put effort into things that people aren't really going to notice. I prefer to look at, you know, if you, let's say, you at the front of the base, somebody's going to walk into the front of that base, they're going to see the trees, they're going to see the viewpoint, they're going to see the path. But if somebody walks around the back of the base and there's all this detail, they're just going to sort of ignore it. They're going, oh, that's cool, they've added all this detail back here. They might appreciate it for a moment, but I don't really think they're going to put too much of their time into thinking about how this base works or how much effort you put into it, and it's not really something that will cross their mind. And one thing I did try to do with this base too is trees. I really love trees in Minecraft. I really love building them, especially since they're new to me and I'm still trying to figure out all the different niches and different ways of doing it. Like, I watched one of Grian's videos recently, and that's my first tree attempt here. It's trying to split it from 4 to 8 and then splitting up all the logs in a weird way. You just have to watch Grian explain it because he's quite interesting about how he talks about making trees. This first tree attempt was a failure, and I didn't know why I didn't try looking at any Icelandic trees, but eventually I did look at what Icelandic trees look like, and they do not look anything like that. They're really thin trees, and I had to come up with this design using chains and everything to get the amount of thinness that I needed for it. And in the end, I think these trees looked so good, especially compared to my other trees, because they're just really small and they're really thin, and they don't have, you know, they don't have like thick branches and birds can't really fly through them. It's like, you know, there's not a lot of leaves on it, and I think it works really well in the base. One thing I've also been trying to get better at in Minecraft is perspective building. It's something BOO does a lot, and I take a lot from BOO on this channel. Like, I try to copy his style probably the most out of anyone because, you know, BOO's style is the best. It is awesome, it is detailed, it is cool, and one thing he's doing in his most recent videos is positioning items to create a direct eye line, something you're going to see the base through, make it like leading lines, stuff like this. I learned about this stuff in games design when we were doing map areas and things like that, and it's really good to transfer this over into Minecraft building. But BOO mentioned it again. I was like, oh, why don't I try something like that? So I did it with this base, and you might see it in the thumbnail a bit, of directing your eyes to look at the entrance through the trees. And it's not perfect, but I think it looked really good with the positioning of everything, and I just really love how that area of the base turned out, just looking absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I love the design of this base, I love how it turned out, and frankly, I don't think it could have turned out much better. Well, hello buddy, welcome back. It turned out pretty cool, didn't it? I wasn't expecting it to be this good. Anyways, let's give it a little talk. One thing I tried to do with this is I looked at a bunch of images of them online, and I did kind of steal a bit and looked at what other people had done. Not in Minecraft, but like, you know, other Viking houses and Longhouses and what the type of designs they did, and all sorts of things. Look at Icelandic trees and everything to try and create these, which, frankly, I know I always go on like a tangent when I talk about trees, and that's because I've been building houses, right, for years and years, and trees are sort of new to me. So going into building trees like this, and whenever I like start building them, I get really energetic and really happy, like, hey, look what I did, all that. It's not really because I'm trying to bore you or anything, but I just really love designing trees, and I think these ones turn out really cool. And I thought maybe if I used chains, I could get like the thinner trees that you see in Iceland. At least that's what the images look like. They're very thin trees, and I think those chains look good, especially from afar, in making these trees look like they were less thick and more very thin, very tall, spruce-like ones. Anyway, let's talk about the main base, and I tried to fill it with as many details as possible. Honestly, the side areas here, they're a little bland. They don't have much going on there, mainly just like flaps over the top with like all the mossy thing that you see on these long houses, but I think they look nice enough. And one thing I tried to do on the bottom here was with these signs and logs. I didn't actually mean to at first, but it sort of looked like B-Dub's cottage from his... If you watch Hermitcraft, BOO, he's a YouTuber on there, and he did this cottage with logs and signs to create this shambled together look. And when I looked at when I looked at the Viking houses towards the bottom, they had these like multiple coloured logs all compiled together at the bottom kind of randomly, and I like that design. I added all these like signs over the top to try and merge the colours together and make it look more shambly, and I think it turned out really nice and helped bring the base together and added a lot of detail. And I really like this front door as well, because I had to come up with an idea of how to make it look like it was big, and I added like the horns you might see in a Viking area, and I just did a ton of extra details every now and then. You know, there's, if I was going to explain every single part of this base, I'd be here for hours. But this space, I really love the exterior, and sadly I haven't done the interior just yet, but maybe if I spin around here. Oh, it actually worked. Look at that. Well, anyway, let's talk about what seems to be this interior. Well, it's a Viking cabin, as you can tell. They aren't very majestic when you look at them regularly. I did a little bit of research into that. What I've tried to do here is I've added some pillars in on the middle, and that helps to make the space feel very crowded. When you have big rooms like this, oftentimes you come to the problem with empty space. Empty space is a big problem when you're building, because you don't really want that. You want, you know, crowdedness. You want a bit of, you have to try and get a good mixture between being easy to move around and so much detail that everything you can look on, it's quite fun. Now, obviously with this here, there is a lot of crowd. It's a little hard to move around, and even with this little campfire in the middle, that's a little bit of a problem. But it's very crowded, looks very nice on the interior, and I'm awfully proud of how this base has turned out. I know I kind of broke character midway through, but in the middle I was like, I've already done the bit now. Anyway, this is the base. You've seen the interior, you've seen the exterior. I've talked a little about those awesome trees. I'll give you one 360 before I tell you guys to watch another video of mine, or I guess watch someone else's video if you're so inclined. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you have any ideas for future videos, put them in the comments. If you have any ideas for anything I can do on this channel, put it in the comments. I love to see comments, and if you just want to say, hey, that video is great, also love it, I always try to respond to those types of comments. If I do miss yours, or if I just don't get around to it, I'm really sorry. But anyway, thanks for watching. Do the stuff I just mentioned, and bye-bye.